Alright, so we have the bunk bed. So first step, I gotta, let me center it up on world space. Reset the position. I'm gonna take all this other stuff and just hide it right now. Alright. So one thing to note is that world space is over here, and this object's kind of off center a little bit. Let's see if I can snap it. I'm not snapping it, but I'm just going to move it, get it close to world space. Alright. So, Pro Builder window. Looks like I got to Pro Builderize it. And it looks like the object underneath has the mesh, so I'm going to click on that one, Pro Builderize it. I can see here it's got the script on it. It's a Pro Builder object. Go into face mode. I'm going to select Bunk Bed 1. I think if I just grow it, yeah, it looks like we're good. So then I can say that looks like I grabbed the bed, but I think the pillow should just be a part of this. So actually I'm going to click one face there, one face there, and just keep growing it. Nothing to grow. I got one bunk bed. And I'm going to detach faces. Move on to the second bunk bed. Control click the pillow as well. Grow faces. Detach. Select the face on the bottom one, the pillow. Grow. Nothing left to grow. Detach. And then I'm not sure yet what I think what's going to happen. Maybe this one falls on this one, falls on that one, and then each of these planks maybe fall down at the end, like a little like a comedy thing. So maybe I'll detach these legs by themselves. So I'll just select the face, grow selection, detach, select the face, grow selection, detach, select the face, grow, detach, and then I think I just got this last one here. So I'm just going to go into object mode. Looks like this one is good. That one's good. That one's good. That's good. Good. And then I'm just going to bring this down. Break the prefab. I'm going to delete this. Alright. So now I have Pro Builder object for each part. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to center the pivot on all of them. So I can look and say, alright, each of them has their pivot centered. That seems to be good. Let me create an empty object. This will be the bunk bed. So, world space is off a little bit. Let me just pull them into their parent, and I'm going to first try to just zero out their transform, see if everything falls apart. Yeah, that's not going to work. So, let me just pop them out. I'm just stepping back a second. So here's, oh, this isn't world. Let me center this up. This is world space 0. And I'm just going to use the orthographic tools. And I'm going to go into orthographic view. And I'm just going to center up by eye. this line here represents world space 0. And I already know it's standing on the floor plane, so I don't need to adjust it in a Y. So I'm good. And now my parent object is in the center of the world. I'll put all these objects underneath it. So the only thing I can think of is maybe these posts. I kind of want their pivots to be at their base, because I kind of envision them falling over at their base. So I will create a game object for each post. So for this one, I'll say this is called maybe post 01, post 01 pivot. And I'm going to hold the V key. This is the pivot now. I'm snapping it to a bottom vertex, whichever one I think it should rotate from. Probably the innermost. As everything falls apart, you know, actually no, it would probably rotate off the far corner. So I think there's good. I'm gonna give it a try. All right. So I'm thinking it'll fall on that corner of it, because if everything falls apart, it would fall on the far edge. I think so. So I think that's good. I think I'm going to place the pivots at the far corner of each post. So I got post 1 done. Kind of tempted. I could just duplicate this and move it over and delete the others. Unless they're sharing like unique. I don't know their UV space, their considerations, but I could do that, and I think I might do that. So I think I'm going to take these 3. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to duplicate this one. And let's see if I can snap it. I can just snap it over. Yeah, I can just snap it over. So either case, you rebuild the other ones like I just did. Or in this case, I just snapped it and placed it over. And then I just call it post 2. So you have multiple ways you can rebuild this thing, whatever is your preference. But I'm just going to be lazy and just snap it. And I'm just deleting the original behind it. Alright, legs are done. Oops. I didn't snap it. Alright. Done. So I got 4 legs, and they're rotating from their base, so that's good. And I can call this bed top, bed mid, bed bottom. Let's make sure it's recording. All right, so I have my bunk bed set. I don't really need to worry, you know, at least their pivots are centered up, and in case you want to like rotate it this way, you can. This might make sense, but I'm just gonna have them drop down on themselves. So bunk bed asset complete. You can export out a Pro Builder if you care to. Just for time's sake, I'm just gonna leave it in. I have my animation folder. Create Animator. Call it Bunk Bed. Drag my animator at the root of my game object. Animator exists on the root. This is what the empty animator looks like. Go to animation, create, go into my folders. I'm calling it bunk bed _ idle. This is what it's like when it's all left by itself, its default state. Let's create a new animation. Bunk bed. Maybe bunk bed wobble. Sure. Maybe if you keep bumping into it, you get near to it, maybe it starts wobbling, and then if you get really close to it, maybe it drops down. So do that. This is meant to wobble. I already went through a lot of the details of the animation process, so I'm gonna work quicker. Probably should have recorded all the rest of it, but hindsight. So I click the animation button and I move off of time 0, I move to time 30. And let's see, what would a wobble look like? So maybe they all just have a little bit of which, yeah, sure. Maybe they do a little side to side. So maybe they rock a little bit to one side, and I'm just moving off a little bit, rock to the other, and maybe they're back to where they were. So I'm just going to copy and paste the start frame. And so since it looks like we have 2 frames, I'm just going to space them out. And if there's 60 frames, they get spaced out at 20 and 40. And I'll click play. And so maybe it does something like this. And maybe if that's great, maybe I'm just going to copy and paste these animations and just move to bed mid. And it looks like I just kind of have to move it a little bit. Let's see if I can paste them in. Oh, it looks like I can. Nice. Bed bottom, I just have to move it, or bed top, I guess. Just move it a little bit just so that it gets added to the properties. Then I kind of go in there and just paste. I got to click on it, that row, click paste it in. Cool. So if I click play, it looks like they need their ending animations. So I'll copy their animation, their starting animation, paste it at the end. Now they kind of do that, kind of uniform. So I'm just going to individually just drag off the keys and maybe just make it messier, offset themselves a little bit and see if that does anything. Sure. So we got a little wobble thing going on. They're all offset from each other, so makes it look more natural, organic, chaotic, whatever. The only thing is they do have that little hang up that I was talking about in the curve, so we could clean that up if we chose to. Or maybe you do want that little pause back. But if I go through each one here and say, okay, here's rotation X on bed bottom, we do have a little hiccup. And this is solved by just grabbing these tangent points, zooming out. And if you want to, you could finesse these curves a little bit, and so you can look out into infinity and kind of see what they'll do. It looks like we're only rotating on X, so I just go through each of the bunk beds and kind of clean up the beginning and ending key, the tangent handles, and then I can move around the min and max, their time positions. And I'm cleaning up the tangent handles. And I'll click play. And they'll do something like that. Looks like in this case, I say maybe that the stumble in between the rocking actually kind of worked for this type of push back and forth, this wobbling. But you can actually grab a handle while it's playing. This case happens to deal with the top bunk, and you can actually change the handle, the tangent, and you can actually see how the curve changes and how it plays back real time. So If you wanted to, you can move your points around. Let's go more of an extreme rocking. This is what a bigger min means. This is what a bigger max means. And you know when you can keep your eye on as this is moving and look up here to kind of see at what point in the animation it's playing. And adjust stuff as needed. So you can just kind of really mess up. Now moving onto the middle bed. And messing around with its curves, trying to make it feel messier or what have you. I'm just watching it. Maybe it starts low and goes high. Maybe it's doing something opposite. And do that, I gotta mess with these curves here. So it's moving opposite the other two. Maybe that's good. Sure, whatever. You mess with your curves until you're happy with it. I'll say I'm happy. This is my wobble. And my last animation I'm going to make is the collapse. All right, I'm going to move off of time 0, hit the record button. And now what does collapse do? Well, the top bunk comes down. And then let me get out of curves back to dope sheet. At a certain point later, the mid and the top will both move. And then at a certain point later, all three will come to the ground plane. And at a certain point later, we'll have post 1 drop. Maybe this one drops to the left. It's like -90. It hits the floor. Maybe sometime later, post 2 drops this way. 90. I'm zooming out on my timeline so I can keep moving down the time. Maybe sometime later, let's see, this drops this way. Time 90, or rotation 90. Sometime later, this drops down. Rotation 90. I happen to have gravestones all around me, but sorry. So now I know specifically that these are just a sequence of events, right? That's kind of cool when they all drop like that. I didn't plan that. Let's see what that looks like. I was thinking that maybe the top bunk would fall, the 2 would fall, and the third one falls, and then the legs fall down. This kind of works too, but I am going to duplicate this animation because I'm not sure yet which one I like. So I'll move back. And notice how collapse 1 doesn't exist because our animator doesn't know about it. So I'm going to call this collapse version 2. I don't know which one I like better. Make a new state, call it collapse version 2. I'm going to connect version 2 to it. And in the animation, I got to click on the object, so then I have access to the animations. Now in this one, I'm going to do what I originally wanted, with top bunk falls. I'm going to do every 20 frames right now until I can figure out the timing of this whole thing. So top bunk falls. Then the mid bunk, he starts to fall. he falls for 20 frames. Then bottom bunk begins to fall. Notice how all these are now have to be offset. I'm going to push them out a little bit. Bottom bunk falls. So top bunk, bottom bunk. Mid bunk, then the bottom bunk. Now I want the legs. I want these legs to stay. So top bunk, bottom bunk, or top bunk, mid bunk, bottom bunk. I want there to be a little pause. They kind of just flow right through, and then the legs fall down. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so they kind of just fall. There doesn't seem to be like a feel of gravity hitting. So this one, to get that feeling going, they kind of have to move much quicker. So looks like this one should, yeah, much faster. This falls in 1/10 of a second. The mid bunk kind of holds the weight of the bottom bunk for a few frames. So I'm going to push this out, maybe like 5 frames, and then the mid bunk gives way, and he drops. So quick, hold. That means the top bunk needs to fall with him. So the top bunk needs to have this key duplicated. He falls, they hold, they fall again. Then the two of them, the mid bunk and the top bunk, hold. Wait a minute. Okay, they fall. So if I duplicate out these two keys, the mid and top, I'm going to zoom in, look at their Y values. So he's falling. Hold. Fall. Okay, then they hold. Then they fall again, right. So that means bottom bunk, he starts moving here, and he'll come along for the ride for 10 frames. The bottom, mid, and top, and then they all just come down. Then that's when these legs may start to drop. And they can all kind of fall together, looks like, maybe. I don't know the speed, but maybe all this starts at 40. Let's just say a second in, maybe we move these keys in. All the legs kind of drop together. Now click play. Cool. And so maybe even legs are kind of tiered off. This one drops, then the next one holds a little bit, and they drops, and the next one holds a little bit, and the next one. All right, so let's say we're happy with this, and now we have 2 collapse animations, and maybe we want to test them out. We're not sure which one we're gonna go to yet. So anyway, let's make our transition. Is there any questions before I go to transitions? We're definitely gonna idle to wobble, and we might go to collapse 1 or collapse 2, and actually maybe in game you might want to randomize that. It depends. Maybe as a player gets close to it or they hit it, and you can do a random roll between which collapse you want to do. At either case, either one of them is going to come back to idle. Regenerate the situation. So let me reorder them a little bit so the lines don't cross. Might be a little easier to see. So do an integer. I'm just going to call it state again. These are the different states. So we set state equal to 1. I'm just declaring that this is state 0, 1, And this is 2 and 3. So turn off exit time, state equals 2. Turn off exit time, state equals 3. Turn off exit time, this is state equals 0.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry. And then this one, if we do get to this branch, we do return back to 0. We want to reset the prop. It's kind of like resetting the bowling pins in a bowling alley. Anyway, I can think that, okay, wobble should just happen once. It shouldn't be looping. Collapse, actually, both the collapses, I don't want that looping either. This isn't a looping situation, so I'm just going to... Actually, I'm sorry, wobbling, I want to loop, because the person starts getting closer to it. It's wobbling, it's wobbling. You don't know how long they're going to stand there, do whatever. Then they do something, they hit it. And so wobbling should be looping, and the collapse should not be looping. Save that. Go to my camera view, energy container. I'm just going to turn him off for right now, and I'm just going to move the bunk bed up. And I'm just going to move it down. Or I'm just going to move it out a bit. So now I can kind of, technically it's not sitting on the ground plane, but it is a demonstration purpose. So I click play, and we're in idle. We see that we're running. I can go to state 1, meaning somebody's getting close to it. It's getting in this temporary, this precarious situation. And something happens, you hit it. The earthquake happens, what happens. And then let's test out one collapse, which is 2. And then we're done with it. We can return back to state 0. Let's reattempt this situation. Somebody gets close to it. There's an earthquake happening. The tremors get really bad. And this is the other collapse. So collapse 1 and collapse 2. And then you can pick whichever one you want. Or you can randomize. Maybe you can have a bunkhouse of 20 of these. That's actually kind of cool. I wonder, no. Are they going to share the same? That gets to a coding situation. So I was going to duplicate out 20 bunk beds. But you know what? I'll make a quick little script, and I'll change the states. Sure. So if I duplicate out the bunk beds, so I'm just going to take this camera. I'm just going to move them up and over a little bit, angle them down. All right. And I'll take this bunk bed. I'm going to have to call them all. This is getting into next class. I haven't really prepared the scripts, but I'll just quickly, maybe I'll just... Yeah, let me make them even. Whoa. Crush that. Something's happening. Alright, duplicate. Duplicate. I'll look in the camera. Sure. So we got 6 bunk beds. I'm just going to create a script. I haven't really gotten this far. We'll give it a try. Animation manager. I guess for right now it doesn't really matter who. I'll just put this on the camera for right now. And I'm not going to do anything slick right now. I'm just going to get 6 reference. I'm not going to like read in the other class. We were like generating as many you want, just setting all their animations. But I'm just gonna go public game object array of bunk beds, and then nope, actually I did need the private void update. If input dot what get key down key code. Let's see, alpha 1. Alpha 1 are the keys above the keyboard. Let's see, for each yeah, I'm just gonna call get their animators. For each animator, bunk bed anim and bunk beds. Say bunk bed anim dot set int. What do I call it? State. We're gonna pass in 1. Yeah, I think that's good. So if I press the 0 key, send in state 0. If I pass 2, 3, so if I press this key, we're going to tell the animators do this, that, this, and the other. So I have no idea. I'm just doing this ad hoc, so we'll see if it works. Bunk beds, we've got 6 bunk beds. Yep, that's the bunk bed. I go back to my camera, say, oops. Here's bunk bed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I just save it. Save. So 0, send 0, 1, 2, 3. I think we're good. Take a look. So 1 key, nice. So I'm setting 6 animators, right? Oh, you're getting too close, or there's an earthquake and collapse. Cool. 0, getting another earthquake hits, and here's the alternate. And then I could actually I'll randomize. Next step is to randomize what the collapse would be. So just so I know how much of that actually made sense, to know how much I got to do next week. But you'd taken a class in Unity scripting before?
Yeah, like I teach the 1, but I also just
Okay. But is this new? Like I'm gonna have to go through. It's okay if it's new. I just need to know how much I need to go next week. All of it? It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just gonna. This is next week basically, but I'm gonna go very slowly. That was too fast, right? I'm gonna go do that step by step.
I have one question. How come? So before you declared public game object, like an array of game objects, and then why did you have to change it to like an array of animators?
I didn't. I would have, if there were game objects, I would have to gone through here and say get component, get component, get component. But I was lazy. And actually, it's cleaner, it's quicker code. Like if that get component's expensive, I can just connect up to the animator. But what I would say 0, 1, and 2 and 3 should really be random. So really, if I press 2, we're gonna set it to 2 or 3. So I'll say private int random call random fall. This I don't need anymore. Actually, I'm gonna save this for later. Then I'm gonna say random fall equals random. Is random range out of? It's random range. No, this is the old one. Yeah, that's a good one. From 2.0 to 3.99, and I gotta cast that into an int. I'm saying give me a full chance of casting either a 2 or 3, but cast it over to an integer, pass it in, and then I'm gonna cast in the random number. So let's say the enemy starts the earthquake generator, and then the earthquake happens, and they all did a random fall. Cool. I'm done for today. Let's see if you have any other questions. Right, so the video.